Welcome back to the channel, guys. Before I introduce you to the car, let me tell you a sad story. So, you remember my dogs, Vasily and Ivy? Well, I guess I'll start by saying you never get a pet in order to get rid of them or to give them away or anything like that. But obviously with the house being sold and us moving in with my in-laws, I did not have any room for the dogs at all. I tried to make arrangements. It wasn't possible, unfortunately. And it broke my heart because I've had these dogs for the last, it would be at least 5-6 years now. And I've raised them since they were puppies. I went and picked them up from the farm. And yeah, it broke my heart. So I didn't give them to the pound or anything like that. I ended up finding a really good home for them, which obviously will bring us to the next part of the story. So yeah, I'm pretty devastated, if I'm honest, guys, but I know they're with a good home at the moment, and I'm still getting pictures and everything else, and in some way I'm linked with this person for life now. And I'll explain to you what I mean now. Basically, I went and dropped off the dogs to this gentleman. He would have lived about an hour and a bit away from me. He lives by the beach, actually. Really, really cool little place. And he's had dogs before, specifically Staffies. And this is a picture of us on our last ride when I was taking them there. And I'm not going to lie, I did shed some tears after the fact, but here are the dogs at his place now, and they're happy and they're healthy and they're running amok and they're really enjoying themselves now. The reason why this came about is because I went to drop off the dogs there, and I went there and I met the guy, and he had a red R31 Skyline there, and we got to talking, and obviously we bonded a little bit over having Skylines, and basically just went from there. So I want to introduce the car to you now. I ended up purchasing it from him, and it was like, I don't know, it was a bittersweet moment, but here it is here. I know it doesn't look the best at the moment. It could do with a good wash and polish, but the bodywork is pretty good to begin with. You've got some, I guess the rims here are the Datsun wheels, and it took me a while to find these out, but they're actually off the Datsun Bluebird TRX, which is the sports model of the Datsun Bluebird, and it was in some Group A racing, I believe, and it was a pretty popular car back in the day. I don't know too much about these, to be honest with you, but it was both Datsun and Nissan Bluebirds, but they're the wheels that were on it now, so apparently they're a pretty rare wheel, so I'm pretty happy with that. But for the most part, it's a 1990 R31. The bodywork is pretty straight, could do with a good polish. It's standard 3-litre RB30. This is the base model, the GX, I believe it is, with air conditioning. But the body panels are quite straight. Looking inside now, obviously one of the seats must have been damaged, but it's got the front driver's seat as a silhouette seat. You can see there it's got a horrendous steering wheel, but factory manual. It's got one R31 silhouette seat in there. As I said, factory 5-speed manual. The doors are a bit funny, but look, that can all be fixed. It's got the 4-gauge cluster, which is okay. I've ended up getting a 6-gauge one anyway, so the interior is that cream or beige brown type color. But we'll move into the engine now. Standard RB30E, I believe it's called. Apparently this has a blown head gasket. I don't know what the situation is with the engine at the moment in terms of what's going to need fixing on it, because I've been really busy with work, and obviously having just moved into my in-laws and all the rest of that. So the car's sat for a few years, he reckons, but for the most part it looks like it's all there, like everything else is there. Headlights, Skyline headlights, they're really nice. It's really weird having a car that has glass headlights. It's just not something you find anymore in today's cars. But yeah, over like everything being equal, it looks okay. As I said, it's a 1990 model, August 20th, 1990. It's not the best condition R31, but it's in decent condition, and what I paid for it is pretty reasonable, considering the market. And I don't know, maybe it was an impulse buy. It's got extractors as well, which is pretty awesome. The car, I haven't heard it starting, but we know that it's got extractors, and it's got a pod filter bracket there, which means it probably would have had a pod filter on it at some point in its life. Got the factory airbox anyway, so the intention is to keep it fairly stock. But yeah, the extractors are there, which is good. Always good to have extractors. And I'm thinking about putting in the Nismo exhaust on it. But we'll go into, obviously, the performance and specs of it all and what you can expect from a car like this shortly. But yeah, everything's there. It looks okay, but obviously we'll see what happens in the future with whether we need to replace the engine or not. I may get a new engine anyway, but let's just see what happens there. So performance and specs, RB30E, fuel injected single cam, 117 kilowatts, and 157 horsepower. This is the kind of performance you're going to get from that. I've got a link for the description of this video down there. I believe this is a silhouette model, but it's automatic. I don't know if the manual is faster than the auto, but I can't imagine it would be too much more faster. So performance wise, 0 to 100, 9.13 seconds, so 9.1 seconds. It's not amazing, but it's okay, I guess. So we've got here, the motor was produced for the use in Skylines and Patrols. The Patrols had the carbureted version. You can freeze this now if you want to actually read it all, but yeah, it's basically an engine that was made for the Holden Commodore. Now the Commodore got a turbo version, the Nissan did not. You guys can freeze that and have a read of it if you want. But next we've got some commercials from the Australian and Japanese representation of the R31. Remember, Japan is called the HR31, whereas Australia is just the R31.
Ability of a medium-sized sedan with the luxury, power and performance of a fuel-injected 3-litre 6, and you've got a world beater. Nissan Skyline. And right now, brand new Skyline executive sedans are going for world-beating prices, under $20,000, including a 2-year warranty. See your Nissan dealer today, before the rest of the world beats you to them.
Wii モータースポーツ、性能はスポーツチューンド、新しいスカイライン誕生。Feel the beat.
So you can see there, Australia was more based around, obviously, being a family sedan, whereas the Japanese version was obviously all about performance. Let's get into parts. So as I said, I did end up picking up a 6-gauge TI cluster, similar to the HR31 cluster. So instead of the battery volt meter there, it's got the boost for the turbo version. And I did get a silhouette, and a Skyline silhouette steering wheel. Now, in Japan, the silhouette logo there is replaced with Skyline. Why they didn't do that in Australia, I don't know. But they're the parts I've got for the car right now. I want to get it back on the road as soon as possible and keep it as, I guess, stock as possible with using, I guess, either Nissan parts or Nismo parts. But that's the car there, guys. Bittersweet for me. Again, we're going to be doing lots to this car, but I hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.